All right, everybody, happy Thursday. Welcome into Concrete Jungle, New York Baseball Podcast. Paul Russo, next to me, as always, Kyle Evans. Behind the scenes producing, man, myth, legend himself, Nate Sharman. Happy Thursday, y'all. Coming to you guys live from the FingerLakes1.com studios, North Park Building in St. Falls, New York. Third floor, mind you, by the way. Yankees in the ALCS. We'll obviously recap Game 5 of the DS, Game 1 of the ALCS. We'll play a little bit of our own, personal baseball manager, devil's advocate in this podcast episode as well, and in a little bit of a twist of whatever, we'll take a brief glimpse over to the NLCS, where there's a lot of storylines kind of popping up there. But before we get it going, how was the week so far for everybody?
It was pretty good. Doing pretty well for the most part. A lot of sports on. That's the best time of the year. So yeah, just excited to have all these sports on.
Good.
Agreed over here, Kyle. It is the sports equinox today with all four major sports in action. I believe I saw it's the 27th time in history this has happened, so a rare day in history. So let's enjoy it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Let's jump right in, and we'll get to the ALDS Game 5. For the Yankees, supposed to be played on Monday, rained out until Tuesday. A lot of conversations about that. But it was a 5-1 Yankee victory over the Guardians. Nestor Cortes gets the win. His first win on the postseason, a 2.70 ERA for him, and Aaron Civale took the loss. 0-1, an 81 flat ERA. Oof. Nestor Cortes went 5 innings, 3 hits, an earned run, and 2 Ks. Excellent job as always, and this is where he can really kind of jump on in. Top of the lineup in the ALDS, really showing out. Judge 2 for 4 with a solo blast. Giancarlo Stanton 1 for 4 with a 3-run home run, obviously. That was the knockout punch on Civale. And Anthony Rizzo 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run scored. Man, top of the line for the Yankees in the DS. Really showed up when they needed to. Mind you, a lot of it was more or less early, kind of has been the script for the Yankees as of late, but after we talked about on Monday how the bottom of the order was kind of the one stepping up, good to see the production from where we expected most really step up in a pivotal game.
Yeah, I thought that was the biggest part in that game was, throwing the first punch, jumping out early, and putting pressure on him. It didn't look like Aaron Civale was, ready for the moment.
Right.
Looked pretty rattled out there, walking hitters, and Stanton made him pay, and it was just a huge first inning for the Yankees.
Yeah, the Civale conversation will kind of circle back to, actually, it's a discussion I want to have because we are baseball guys, really at our core. So we'll circle back to that. Again, though, shout out to Nestor, continuing just a phenomenal, really, year for him, obviously beyond the scope of things. Again, shout out to our guy, the plumber, Wandy Peralta. Came up in a big spot, obviously. Yeah, he gave up a couple hits, but, all things considered, I think we can let that slide given 5 straight games of work anyway for him it ended up being, but certainly not in that spot without him. One key part I left off and I kind of forgot about, but I do want to talk about, is what ended up happening in the game at a couple different points. We'll save the Naylor discussion. We'll table that for a second. Talk about a little bit what will bleed into our next topic with the ALCS a little bit. Aaron Hicks, Oswaldo Cabrera, Josh Donaldson kind of going out. Bit of a Bermuda Triangle type moment. Results in Cabrera and Hicks colliding. Hicks going to be out for at least the ALCS. Obviously left off the roster, but left the game with a left knee injury. Kind of actually goes back to what we did actually talk about on Monday. Communication with these guys. Obviously there was some sort of communication at least. Donaldson we saw pulled off on the play. And at the very least it wasn't a 3-way collision. And it could have been way worse, right? I think the Yankees got pretty lucky in the fact that, Oswaldo didn't get banged up and he could stay in the game. But losing Hicks and, mind you, we have our thoughts and opinions on him. rather have him out there than, say, Marwin or anybody else at that point. So to me, certainly a little bit of a blow nonetheless that occurred in the Game 5 of the ALDS.
Yeah, and it seems like that keeps happening. The outfielders are calling off the infielders, and the infielders are backpedaling, and it's just like, just let the outfielder do it.
Right.
You know, that's twice now in that, or that was twice in that series that happened. As we mentioned, you know, with Donaldson earlier in the series. I don't know. I think Hicks could have made the play. Donaldson needs to get away, stop backpedaling. Cabrera was running way out of his range. I mean, yeah, it would have been a nice play if he made it, but that's Hicks's ball.
Yeah, I mean, to at least credit Donaldson, I mean, he did pull off. Somebody had to have said something, and it was a good point. I need to give credit to, I believe it was Ron Darling on the broadcast who brought up, you know, the Guardians have the bloop and blast, or well, at least shooter and duck style of play that, especially in left field, it kind of continued happening. So it's a tough spot, at least in my mind as well, though. I mean, I know he was way out of range, but to me, that's where Hicks really needs to be. And clearly, I think Hicks said enough that one player pulled off, but wasn't loud enough or enough to have both Cabrera and Donaldson pull off at that point.
Yeah, just a tough play right there, and of course they got a run on that. But at least they were able to pick up the win.
Yeah, it's the only run that obviously the Guardians got. We need to discuss, and obviously he's been a really good sport about it. But Josh Naylor certainly getting what we would call in racing anyway, taking the piss a little bit. You know, obviously the Rock Baby, small celebration, and the fans were giving it to him. Glaber ends up giving it to him after the game when the Yankees clinch on the fielder's choice in the ninth. You know, I'm all for it. I know, you know, I have a buddy who's a Guardians fan, and he wasn't a big fan of it. I know a lot of Guardians fans aren't a fan of how that kind of went down, but, you know, the only thing I kind of really tell them with this is, if you're fine with Naylor doing it, and which they were, then you have to just kind of, like I say, take it a little bit like he did when it happens on the way back around. And, you know, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with it. I'm all for the having fun aspect of things and stuff like that. And, you know, seemed, like I said, Naylor was fine with it. But clearly the Yankees were fine with it. I think at that point the fans just kind of need to not shut up and move on, but, you know, look, stuff happens. You know, your guys, Naylor had to, like I said, Naylor took it on the chin. He's fine with it. He thought it was pretty cool how everything kind of circled back on him, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm all for celebrating too. And I don't get why he told Garrett Cole that he's his son. Like, I didn't get all that. He could have just celebrated. He didn't have to stare out the mound at him and just kind of show him up. I mean, it was a solo shot. It was, to me, it was just a little too much. But I'm okay with celebrating. I love bat flips. Mm-hmm. I love it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said. I mean, if your guy's fine with it, then you don't have a gripe. And if you want to gripe on it, then I don't know what to tell you. Probably pick your favorite Boots, pick a favorite song, and find a different line to get into. All right. This is a fun part. I do want to discuss this. A little bit of a devil's advocate kind of here type scenario. I figured you actually would enjoy this, Kyle. The Aaron Civale versus Shane Bieber debate. Certainly, and I don't want to undercut him here, so I think I'll start here. Civale, you have to take the record that he had on the year and kind of put it with a grain of salt. He was on and off the IL kind of all year up until August. He was actually a guy I had in fantasy and did really well. That being said, he hadn't started in a couple weeks. Certainly, like you said, I don't think he was ready exactly for the moment. That being said, I don't have a necessary problem with starting Civale, but Bieber's your ace. He was on pretty much normal rest if you're the Guardians. And I think this was a little case of maybe Francona overmanaging, which we really don't normally see all that often out of Terry Francona. Kind of worrying about a potential ALCS Game 1 when especially in baseball, you can't worry about tomorrow. You worry about tomorrow in these situations.
Yeah, to me it was mind-boggling. I thought after the rainout they would make the change, go with Bieber. I just can't believe they put their entire season on a guy who already had struggled twice in the same season against the Yankees. And, like, literally, like, yeah, there was still 8 innings to go, but, I mean, after the first inning, you kind of just knew what was going to be happening in that game.
Yeah,
Yankees jumped out 3-0, and they just held on from there.
Especially, to me, I think a lot of it goes back to, too, is, you know, obviously they pulled Civale quick after the Stanton home run. And I'm not saying that was the plan, but if that was your plan, then if you don't start Bieber and you go that route, just throw, whether it's Trevor Stephan out there, Eniel De Los Santos, I mean, Eli Morgan. Eli Morgan was a starter by trade. They have transitioned over to the bullpen in the second half of this year. Go with one of those guys. If that's your plan, it was kind of baffling. Like I said, especially in baseball, it's, you worry about tomorrow in these situations because you gotta get there. And I get, young arm, preserve. Francona knows what he's doing, but I mean, to me, Francona drank from the same water source as Dave Roberts did. So, just seemed like some overmanaging and overthinking, and just an end goal that you need to get to, even have the opportunity to get to have first.
Yeah,
and you didn't take advantage of it.
And to add to that, obviously, you're not going to win with 1 run, so their offense didn't help either. But going down, in a hole that early, I'm sure that put a lot of pressure on that lineup, who doesn't hit a lot of home runs. So they're going to need to string hits together to try to come back. And Yankees pitching did a good job of settling in and holding them down compared to the first few games where they struggled a little bit.
All right, let's move on to the postseason. Oh, man. That's where we are anyway, folks, postseason. But the ALCS roster for the Yankees obviously expands out. You are able to have another addition to the roster, goes back to 26. And some interesting kind of notes on there to kind of look at. So let's start with the basics, obviously, here. Obviously, Aaron Hicks is off the roster because he's hurt. Kind of throws to me, like I said, it's a little bit of a wrench kind of in the plans for the Yankees. We saw last night with Giancarlo out in left field, although that's a little bit more of a discussion that we can kind of have here in a second. But, your main notes are kind of like you see Frankie Montas back on the roster, DJ LeMahieu and Ron Marinaccio both off. And the one guy to me that also was kind of surprising to see left off the roster was Lucas Ludke, another left-handed arm. So there's only one left-handed arm in the bullpen for the Yankees, and Wandy Peralta. Obviously, Chapman not coming back anytime soon. And I guess in that sense, too, there was no, to me, like super surprises you kind of saw off the roster. None. Maybe quite like, not to go back to maybe the Guardians, but like in their wild card roster, Civale was off it, for example, which kind of caught everybody off guard. And for the Yankees, nobody really crazy was left off, but I'd say.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they actually finally went with Oswald Peraza over Marwin Gonzalez. That kind of surprised me a little bit, just because they said that they wanted the more experienced guy in the last round of the division series, but now you can take the rookie and put him in an even bigger series. I just don't get why he couldn't have been in the last series too. Like, what's the difference?
Right.
He wasn't going to be starting anyway in either of the series.
Now, interesting, obviously, to know as well as Greg Westert's on the roster. Like I said, the Yankees only have one lefty in the bullpen, with it being Wandy Peralta. Part of it, to me, kind of makes me wonder, is it because really the only left-handed threat that the Astros have is Yordan Alvarez? Now, that being said, Kyle Tucker's a lefty, I know that, but in terms of maybe that true power threat, it really is only Yordan.
Well, yeah, the lineup's obviously right-handed heavy, and if you look at their numbers against lefties, Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, they hit lefties really well.
Yeah.
So I think they just wanted to stack the pen with the righties, and they think that the righties can get those guys out.
and obviously this is a different discussion to have if this is hypothetically back in June, but, if Brantley's healthy and on this roster, I think we do see maybe just one more lefty in the bullpen just to kind of have in case type scenario type deal. But obviously, you mentioned a good point, and it's a right-hand heavy lineup that the Astros have. And it's an interesting lineup the Astros have right now. They're kind of stuck, honestly, to me, in a bit of a rock and a hard place type scenario. Jose Altuve, and not to look too far ahead to recapping last night's Game 1 of the ALCS, but, your leadoff guy in Altuve for the Astros outright struggling, including last night now 0 for 19 in the postseason, which is absolutely crazy to think about, given we know that Altuve is, a very good hitter. I mean, to put it bluntly. So it's certainly kind of strange, I guess, in a way, but, you look at the other, like I said, the other guys in the lineup right now, and they're just really are kind of raking for the most part, the right-handed side for Houston, as you mentioned.
Yeah, a guy like Jeremy Pena, I think that guy is going to be a name for Yankee fans to remember.
Yeah.
Seems like he just does a lot of damage. He did it against Seattle. He's the reason why they won that 18-inning game. But yeah, that lineup is pretty deep. I think Bregman's hitting 6th, they're 5th. So that's pretty deep.
Yeah, so the Bregman at least was cleaned up yesterday. We can fully move on now and take a look at Game 1 of the ALCS, which is a 4-2 loss for the Yankees. Justin Verlander takes the win. 1-0 his first decision on the postseason. ERA 6.30. Clark Schmidt took the loss out of the bullpen 0-2 and 11.57 ERA for him. Ryan Presley picks up the second save on the season for him. We'll start here, obviously, with pitching. James Nayon gets a start, goes 4 1/3, no decision, 4 hits, an earned run, 3 walks, no Ks. He didn't look, I guess, maybe typical Jameson that we've seen really all of September, and I think a lot of that has to do with, they used him out of the pen, obviously, in the Cleveland series for one game. First start, obviously, in a couple weeks, but all things considered, I don't know if I would have pulled him there. This is where we can kind of talk about maybe Aaron Boone kind of overmanaging already in a sense. We saw Oswaldo was not in the starting lineup last night. Kind of caught everybody off guard a little bit. Don't know really if I would have gone fully that route exactly, but he pulls Tyone in the 5th. Puts Lou Trevino in, obviously gets a stop, but kind of at that point, it's where it gets off the rails a little bit. And I don't want to dunk on Clark Schmidt. Been great all year. Just a couple back-to-back rough outings, which kind of happens for relievers to say it's on the second brightest stage of the year in the postseason leading up to the World Series.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's simple with Tyone. They followed analytics. It was the 3rd time through the order. He got Altuve to ground out, and then he gave up a double to Pena. And he didn't want him going any longer against, 3rd time through the order. And he brings Clark Schmidt in, he gets the double play, they get out of the inning. But this is where I don't get, why are you bringing Schmidt back out for the 6th? Why are you not going to Lou Trevino for a whole inning? Mm-hmm. It's just stuff like that. Like
well,
you already brought Schmidt again in another big situation. He gets out of it this time, and now you're going to throw him back out there? Mm-hmm. I didn't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my thing is just, part of it goes back to that. I mean, even I get the 3rd time through the order thing, but I mean, to me, Tyone's earned this spot through the whole season to at least earn going at, at least one more guy at that point. And Pena, Alvarez at that point, and, that's a tough spot, right? I mean, I just, to me, it's the overthinking aspect of it. And I mean, look, I'm all for analytics. I'm a numbers guy, but to me, there's always a perfect combination of analytics and just the old school, quote unquote, old school baseball thinking. I would have left him out there. I think with Tyone, I like I said, I know it says otherwise, but he had a still reasonable pitch count. They pulled him at 67 pitches. Like you said, I think to me, you leave him out there and let him go. I mean, Trevino only threw, for example, the 7 pitches in his 2 batters he faced.
Yeah, the thing is that decision didn't end up hurting him because obviously Schmidt got out of the inning, but what hurt him is Boone bringing him back out for the 6th. So 100%. I guess pulling Tyone it didn't really hurt them because Schmidt got out of
Right.
it. It's the following inning,
Yeah.
and that's where the questions come into play.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean we're saying the same thing. I think we're just more or less looking at it from two different lenses of just the timing of different things within that time frame, and that's just a tough spot. Let's look at some bright spots here. Anthony Rizzo, Harrison Bader kind of powered that offense in terms of at least getting the runs on the board. Bader really coming on, obviously, in the postseason. Kind of funny, my brother actually was the one who brought this to my attention. Going into this postseason, Harrison Bader's career home runs in the playoffs, none. Comes to New York, and that changes completely. Has 4 of them already. So credit to Bader. I think he's kind of living up to the moment, if you will, in that sense. But obviously, a couple other spots he could have played a little bit of a bigger role. But really, it was a rough night overall at the plate for the Yankees. 17 strikeouts, not great. 5 hits, 2 walks, not a ton of action really getting going, especially later on when we needed it most. Outside of Rizzo. Rizzo obviously hits a home run in the 8th inning with 2 down, but at that point, just the way it was kind of feeling within Minute Maid Park, just a little too late.
Yeah, they did have 2 opportunities in the first 3 innings. I remember it was the first inning, first and second, 2 outs, and then the third inning, second and third, 1 out. Right there is where you have to capitalize. Yeah. The reason the Yankees keep losing to the Astros is because they don't hit. It's that simple. I'm so tired of everyone blaming pitching. Yeah, bringing Schmidt out was stupid. Yeah, he struggled. But they scored 2 runs. You're probably not going to win a postseason game with 2 runs.
No, 100%.
And then everyone's saying, well, the Yankees rely on the home run ball. Oh, really? Look at the Astros. They've won all their games this postseason, and they pretty much only homered. 3 of their 4 runs yesterday came via the home run. Teams win with the long ball. Yes, you want to string hits together. But I'm just so tired of that narrative, you don't win games with just home runs. That's not true.
Right.
And if you look at the postseason and altogether, a lot of teams hit home runs. Look at the Phillies. Mm-hmm. They jumped out to an early lead yesterday with home runs. The Padres came back with some big home runs. Yeah. That's what happens.
And to back you up on this, right? It's not like the Astros had a ton more base runners than the Yankees in the game. They had 4 more base runners than the Yankees in the game. But the key part in this, right, it's funny because the Yankees left 11 guys on base yesterday, and the Astros left 10 guys on base yesterday. Yep. But the key part here is, I mentioned the 17 strikeouts for the Yankees. The Astros only had 2 strikeouts.
Yeah, they don't strike out, and then they just get the big home runs.
Right. And you bring up the point of clutch hitting, and you can't. It's hard to blame pitching, right? I mean, another guy. I mean, obviously it's not like Aaron Judge. We aren't here without Aaron Judge, but Clark Schmidt came up so big in certain spots in the regular season that it does make a difference when you get to certain points like this.
And notice every time the Yankees do hit home runs, it literally seems like they're solo home runs.
Yeah, 100%.
And you probably aren't going to win games with just 2 solo home runs. I get, being frustrated with Boone and frustrating with the pitching, but why does no one look at the offense? Aside from the 2 home runs, they had 3 hits. Mm-hmm. That's not going to get it done. No. And then the bottom of the order, Jose Trevino and, guys like him, they just have not been the same in the second half. Yeah. Other than Bader in the bottom of the order, what are you getting? IKF has a hit a couple times, but, it's if the top of the order doesn't do the damage, they're not going to win games. It's that simple.
For as much as we have been dunking on IKF, he has the second highest batting average in the postseason in the Yankee lineup yesterday.
Yep.
That's nuts. Do want to mention, I'm curious to hear your thoughts here before we kind of move on a little bit. The decision to have Carpenter in the lineup over Cabrera yesterday. I know the reasoning was allegedly the whole entire he does better against lefties theory for Cabrera, except in the Cleveland series it was made note that he hits better off of righties. So I think, were they trying to hide him from Verlander? Maybe. But to me, I don't think that's fair to Matt Carpenter in his first full game back coming off the IL to have him go up against Verlander either in that sense.
Yeah, it clearly shows that, he didn't get enough at-bats. Yeah. I really wish they would have taken that 4-game series in Texas and just put him in the lineup for all 4 games. Let him face live MLB pitching. Mm-hmm. I know he was doing it down at the alternate site, but it's not the same thing. This is in-game stuff.
Yeah.
They had nothing to play for. I just really would have just, brought them with the team and let them play all 4 games and try to get more at-bats. Right. But, yeah, it was a rough game for him for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's look ahead here to the rest of the ALCS that we know for sure will be occurring, obviously. Game 2 is tonight at 7:37 on TBS. It will be Luis Severino. No decision so far in the postseason, but does have a 4.76 ERA. He'll be going against Framber Valdez. Also no decisions so far in the postseason, but 3.18 ERA. Good spot in my mind for the Yankees to bounce back. I like the spot here with Severino. Framber, very good pitcher. Doesn't get a ton of strikeouts. Kind of like one of those guys for the Astros that they're not afraid to get wacky with it, throw some junk if they have to. So I think it's going to be a really great matchup for the Yankees to maybe try and bounce back on. I mean, Framber doesn't exactly leave too much out of the strike zone to guys, and should be interesting to kind of see what we get out of the lineup. To me today, I wouldn't be surprised to see Oswaldo back in there, to be honest with you, but I think that probably remains to be seen a little bit.
Yeah, I would obviously have Oswaldo back in there. This is just my opinion on this. They cannot go back to Yankee Stadium down 2-0. I think this is pretty much season on the line. I know that's big to say, but you have to win this game. I mean, the goal coming into the series was just take 1 in Houston.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get it done last night, so hopefully they just get it done tonight. At least take 2 of 3 in the Bronx, but try for 3. And just don't let that go back to Houston with Houston, ahead in the series. I think that would be huge.
Now through the weekend, the pitching matchups are technically to be announced for games 3 and 4. Saturday is game 3 with Friday being a travel day. First pitch of 5:07 on TBS, and Sunday first pitch at 7:07 on TBS. Safe to say to me anyway, game 3 will be likely Garrett Cole, barring him getting sick or something like that. And Sunday, same thing, barring him getting sick or something like that for the Yankees, I would expect to see Nestor Cortez on the mound. And for the Astros, this is where things might get a little bit interesting. Game 3, is that where you put Luis Garcia? Do you put him game 4? Or, where do we see McCullers potentially? A couple different interesting spots here, I'd say, for the Astros over the weekend. But I'm expecting to probably see a combo of one of those 2 guys out there, as well as maybe Jose Urquidy, to be honest with you. I know they've been using him more as the bullpen type long guy in this postseason, but certainly a lefty guy to maybe kind of shake things up in there would be certainly something I wouldn't put Dusty Baker by doing.
Yeah, the pitching's definitely going to be interesting, but one thing I'll say is if they keep striking out 17 times, they're not going to win a game.
No.
Their bats have to be better. The umpire called a couple, strikes that weren't strikes, but that's not why they lost. They just couldn't hit. They had opportunities early in the game. They let Verlander settle in, and he just cruised.
Can you tell that the Cleveland fans, by the way?
Yeah.
Not to take too many digs.
I never blame the umpires. I think it's foolish to blame the umpires for your team losing.
If it's hyper egregious, that's one thing. But the umps have been pretty consistent overall. They're obviously spot a couple instances, but they've been pretty consistent overall this entire postseason across all boards.
Yeah, and Justin Verlander's a future Hall of Famer. Of course, he's going to get a couple calls that go his way.
Right. I think a lot of it too goes back to a little bit of old school thinking here. Just adjust at the plate. If you know what's coming, you have to adjust.
Yeah, and a lot of times it was close. Why are you not swinging?
Got protect. Okay, before we get out of here, do want to make note of the NLCS going on. Like I said, a little bit of a different maybe thought process along here, but it is 1-1 between absolutely everybody who we thought would be there: the Philadelphia Phillies and the San Diego Padres. Been actually fun to watch this series so far from afar. A lot of really highlight moments, in all honesty, in this series so far. 1-1, they're off today. They're traveling back to Philly for Game 3 tomorrow. But who would have thought the Phillies and the Padres in the NLCS?
Yeah, I don't know why everyone's complaining about this. Big deal that the 100-win teams aren't here. To me, this is fun. I hope this goes 7. I really would love 7. I don't really have a rooting interest. I mean, I would kind of probably go with the Phillies if I had to choose. But I'm enjoying this. I watched the game yesterday. I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Phillies looked like they were just going to, be in control, and then the Padres were like, nope.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Bob Melvin guy, obviously manager for the Padres, but I mean, hard to ignore the guy managing the Phillies right now, former Yankee, longtime Yankee coach and management guy, and Rob Thompson, who I'm a big fan of. He's a guy that, I ultimately hope the Yankees would take a run at some point. Go ahead, Nate.
One thing I got to say, Josh Allen in attendance. Padres got the advantage there.
Yeah, well, yeah. Some say he just wanted to wear brown or brown and yellow one more time, but isn't his girlfriend from San Diego or something like that?
Yeah, like the California area somewhere.
But
that was a good comment, Paul, about the colors.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Long live the Pokes, baby.
Go Pokes.
But yeah, I mean, this is going to be, if you're a baseball fan, to me, this is about as fun a series as you can have in the postseason in terms of you got the star potential, right? Obviously, the Phillies with Bryce Harper, the Padres with Juan Soto, Manny Machado, right? Just a ton of fun. This is a fun series. This is going to be a fun series, and like you said, if I take my whole true allegiances out of everything, I mean, this is what I want to see go 7 games. I want to see it come down to that final pitch, no matter kind of which end of it comes out on. And you want to talk about a reclamation project. I mean, Josh Hader, who everybody wrote off going into the postseason, 4 saves in the 4 opportunities that he's had in the postseason. No earned runs. I mean, fun to see him kind of find himself again. And what's not quite like a little bit of a family going up against each other with the Nolas as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, Hader's been like literally automatic. It's crazy that he had his struggles at the end of the regular season because it doesn't look like he's struggling at all now.
Right. Yeah, what a job there by him to get it going. And yeah, a little fun yesterday. Obviously, that's Brandon Drury, one of the acquisitions the Padres made at the deadline, getting him over from the Reds. Obviously, you want to talk about a guy I really wish did well with the Yankees, Brandon Drury. I was excited when they got him a couple of years ago, and it just never worked out health-wise or really play-wise.
Yeah, and he has to be thrilled. Like you said, he started with the Reds, and now look where he is. Yeah. He's, 3 wins away from the World Series? Yeah. Like, crazy. Sometimes how, like, these guys' lives are. Yeah. They just don't know what to expect, and boom, they're in a new city.
It's baseball. Yep. That's why it's the best. All right, so that will wrap up Concrete Jungle for today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Obviously, I know we'll be watching baseball going throughout the weekend, but any other major plans coming up? I know the weather will take a turn to the positive side, at least, anyway, for the weekend.
No, nothing really planned. A lot of Sabres hockey, Yankees baseball. Sucks the Bills are
couple late nights for you this weekend.
Yeah.
Nate, anything fun for you?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Paul. Beautiful 5 days coming up here in the Northeast. Let's play some golf, watch some sports. Doesn't get much better than that.
For sure. So, Concrete Jungle, watch anytime here on YouTube if you're watching live. Catch up, obviously, on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify. Like, share, subscribe, follow us, all the fun stuff. We really would appreciate that. Let us know your predictions if you got any. And until Monday, have a fantastic weekend. Watch some baseball, enjoy the weather, and we will talk to everybody on Monday. Take care.